a great friend, somebody who I've come to really make a connection with, and somebody who is full of amazing knowledge. So to Geraldine, here we go. There you go.
Okay, am I on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I am very pleased to be with you today. It is such a broad topic. I mean, we could sit here for a couple of weeks and have me discuss with you the healing that we do here in Gatawaga, both my son and I. I think that the very, very basic understanding about healing it is with my people is simply something that my grandmother said to me as a small child. And what she said to me then was, what that means is that the mind is all. And so our rituals and ceremony is based on that idea. Our rituals and ceremonies are designed to help you change your mind about sickness. I'm off.
Okay, there you go.
So, in changing your mind about sickness, tells us that sickness is a mind construct to begin with. So, I mean, nobody goes out to create illness, but if you're not raised in a traditional way, you blunder into decisions, actions that work against your well-being. And my job when people come to see me is for me to listen and to be able to tell you what that is and how you can change things. Now, healing in indigenous ways means a healer has to be really, really connected with themselves, their inner being, to be able to see. And of course, when we say see, I don't mean seeing with your eyes. We are able to see with our whole bodies. And so when a person comes to see me, I am experiencing or noticing their vibration, the quality of their vibration. I also look at their aura. Their aura speaks to me and tells me a great many things. I look through all your energy centers and notice where there needs to be some work. When I say work, it doesn't mean that I will do the work. It means I will tell you where the hurt is and try to tell you how you need to heal that. So ultimately, what we do here is we don't take over your life and we don't prescribe all kinds of stuff to you. We just tell you, and you are your own healer. It gives you 100% responsibility for your own health. And so this is the kind of work we do, where I am very, very close to nature, to spirits. My understanding is that the world is so much bigger than what we think it is. Most of the time, people are so distracted, so living in the regular rat race, that they don't take the time or the opportunity to stop, feel, look around, and see the world on a much brighter basis. So this is the type of thing that we look at. And I suppose a name for that would be very metaphysical. And it is very much so. I like to call it quantum physics, actually, because quantum physics is defined by the probability of everything. So there are no boundaries. We go outside the box. We can think of and see all manner of different things and work with that rather than try to fight it and bring it to what we consider normal, because there is no such thing as normal. Everything is so beautiful and so huge. As an Indigenous person, I've learned to work with the elements. So I work with fire, I worked with water, I work with air, and I work with the earth. How that translates is that I use an eagle feather, who are lords of the air. And when I look at individuals, I use my eagle feather to feel how these people are and what state they're in. I use fire. I use fire when I need to take some really nasty stuff off people, and I burn it. Also, I work with water a great deal. I go and I work with water. Actually, my very, very first time I journeyed into the spiritual world was caused by water. My vision changed and everything became a watery world. And so water was my initial, I guess maybe it was the initial element that brought me into the spirit realm. Earth, the element of earth I've used also as the sweat lodge. The sweat lodge greeted me many, many years ago in Carameos, BC, and brought to me wonderful visions in the sweat lodge. So we are living in a spiritual realm. We need to take the time to be able to look and to see and to feel. And it definitely broadens my perspective on the world. It makes me a very spiritual person. My son Mike is sitting here, and I will pass this over to my son so that he can look, or at least give you his definition of what he has experienced.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know, wait, you got a second here? Okay. How are you all doing today?
They're all on mute.
We're all on mute?
Yeah, so they're only listening to you.
To me, okay. Well, I just walked in from healing sessions this morning myself, and healing, I caught a little bit of what my mom was saying. As my mom's son, I haven't fallen far from that tree, so much of her teachings have been my teachings as well. And in that, applying what we know to each other and to ourselves is really the essence of healing. We learn a great deal. We've picked up a great deal, knowledge, information, from other healers, as well as from the spiritual realm as well, by dreams and visions, and continuing to follow those dreams and visions. They've given us guidance and direction as to what we need to do in order to heal or to be well. And in being in connection and in communication with the spirit world in that way has given us a great deal of insight into ourselves. And by that, it has allowed us to connect in a large part with our clientele that come to see us. And in many cases, we're very much connected to how our clientele are feeling, even on a specific day. I can give a good example this morning. I was feeling pain right in my chest, right in my heart. And I thought, okay, I don't get those kind of pains. But as it turns out, as I walked into work this morning, the first person I see, bang, immediately, heart energy, heart chakra. She needed to take care and send that love back to herself. So I was already picking up on what my first client was going to, or how my day was going to shape up even before getting to work. So in that, it was a bit of an eye opener again, because it's like, okay, my body is already speaking to me. It's a very finely honed instrument, sensitive and able to speak to you in a different form of communication. And so in greeting this woman this morning and putting the pieces together almost immediately, it was like, okay, wow, healing comes in so many ways, through messages, through the body. And in that, we got down to the nitty gritty and working with her, and she realized a lot of things this morning. So as much of an insight as it was for me, it was a great deal of relief and comfort for her in knowing that she wasn't alone in how she felt. And so by that, it was a good session, a good healing session this morning. So this is what, from my part, how being connected to how you feel gives you such an enormous wealth of not just information and knowledge, but by feeling to a greater extent beyond your own community into the rest of humanity. And you begin to pick up on these vibrations, these movements and motions. And they serve us well. They have continued to serve us well. Both myself, my mother, our mentors, and others who have followed along this path. And we continue to share. We continue to share that emotion, that vibration, the good mind, the healing mind that we all possess, to switch over from your crazy brain, as I call it, the one that will continuously drive you headfirst into the brick wall in the dead end zone every single time. Get off that track. Remember who you really are as spirit, and you'll be guided back to the choices, really what it boils down to anyways, the choices and decisions we all need to make. And when you hit the wall 1,000 times, then you know, well, there's another option here. Just change your mind and change your course of action and direction, and you'll be let out of the no-win situation forever and for good. So, and this is part of the healing, the teaching that we receive from the spirits. We don't always listen to it, unfortunately, because of the loud volume that crazy brain is on. So it presents a challenge to quiet your mind, and sometimes forcibly have to meditate yourself to reach that level of quiet within. So it comes with its bumps and bruises along the way. It comes with its face first falls even, but we get back up knowing that those injuries heal, those wounds will seal themselves back. And it all serves for the purpose to make us realize that we do choose, we have a choice, we continue to make that choice, and we can go forward in a good way, in a healing way. And that's what has continued to serve myself, my mom, in this healing realm. And as she mentioned, as I overheard her, being in connection with the elements of the earth. These elements have all come to us in different ways, different shapes, and different forms. And they've helped us heal along the way, heal our own past, heal our own injuries. But more importantly, it got us to change how we feel about the past. That has always been a vital component to healing, is that needing to know that and to do that and to be it, to walk your talk. So at the moment, I just walked in from work, so my voice is a little bit rough around the edges from speaking all morning. So I'm going to turn it back over to my mother again briefly while I get myself a drink, and I will be joining you guys again shortly in a few seconds. So hang in there. There's lots more to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
So when we feel other people's feelings, how do we protect ourselves and heal ourselves from that hurt?
Well, you don't need protection. That's the whole thing. You know, almost every individual asks me that. How do you protect yourself? I've been a healer for more than I think it's 35 years now, and I have never had once to protect myself. Why? There is an understanding from the old people. The old people tell us that when we were in the spirit realm, that we are the authors of our own life story. Now, you have to understand that it isn't your conscious little mind that creates this scenario. It is your big, big spirit self. So for whatever reason you said, this is what I'm going to experience in this lifetime. And so why? Why? Because we can, and because we know we can rise above it. So here we are now, a healer, and I have created this scenario myself in the spirit world that I am going to be a healer in this world. So now the challenge in my life is, how do I rise above all of this, the things that I've experienced in this life? Well, our ancestors have left us a trail and a pathway that we could follow. And that pathway says that when we were leaving the spirit realm, we didn't come here by ourselves. And the thing that we carry, the most precious thing we carry, is called the Great Spirit. Because the Great Spirit is in our way, first of all, the moniker Great Spirit is really Christianized, colonized moniker for that being that we bring into this world. The way our people understood it way back when was not as a great spirit. What we called that was the great good consciousness, the great good mind that creates all. And because this great good mind has created you as well, you bring with you when you come into this world that great good mind. And he lives with you forever. That is a bone deep understanding. And so we go through life confidently that we are always safe. We never lose anything. There is never any such thing as death. Why? Because the great good mind is with us. So Wanting to protect myself is based in fear. Well, there is nothing to be afraid of, ever. And so that's my response to you in saying, do I protect myself? From what? There is no need. There is no need. And so this is how I go about doing my work confidently, without fear. People can present all manner of horrific things to you, and still at the same time, you know you are safe. And so this is one of the things about our traditional medicines. First of all, I did tell you that sickness was a mind construct. It is. It is your fear that has come into to reality, and so we wind up with anxiety and depression, and right now it's people are suffering depression and anxiety and are feeling really, really overwhelmed. That is fear-based thinking. Now, when you left that spirit realm and came into this world, you entered a fetus. And that fetus comes equipped with the brain that thinks. Well, I want you to know that there's a reason why they call your brain the ego. It doesn't like you. It is a liar, actually, and it is a cheater, and it is sneaky and sly. That thought, that thinking process comes from your brain. You have to remember that you are not your body and you are not your brain. These are your tools in this life to help you experience life and living on this planet, but it isn't who you are. You are still connected to the Great Spirit. That is the real you. So you are supposed to instruct your brain in how it is to function. The biggest disease that exists on the planet today is that ego is what is instructing you, and it instructs you in fear, and it keeps you there. That is why you are so overwhelmed. COVID-19 is a mind construct. It is the fear of this planet that is generated and creates this kind of sickness. The longer you are afraid of it, the more you believe that it even exists, the longer it will stay here. And now we're into what is called the second wave. Well, it tells us how afraid we are and how we're so focused on it, and that we refuse to allow it to become the past. So we keep it in the present. That's what's actually happening out there without your realization. Everything on this planet, beginning with all the media and the hype, is keeping you there by constantly building on your fear. And because you believe in every thought that enters your skull and believing that that's me, well, of course you get sucked in. So in order for you to get past that, you really, really need to be in contact with the Great Spirit who lives right in you, and to be talking to that Spirit. Talking to him when you're happy, talking to him when you're sad, especially when you're angry and afraid. So we live our lives without any kind of spirituality, and this is what it brings us to. Most indigenous people survived a lot of horrific things since the advent of what is called discovery. So, you know, the voice just came on and totally distracted me.
No, you just. Okay, there you go.
This is how we managed to survive. all the horrific things that have happened to Indigenous people on this continent is our bone deep understanding that the Great Spirit lives in us. We are not afraid of death, at least not historically. And so here we are. So I don't know if there's any more questions here. I think I've opened up a real can of worms, but it is good stuff. It will spur you on to think, I hope.
So, Mike, what do you, I guess when you look at Indigenous healing processes, is it similar to meditation? And if it is similar to meditation, or are there different ways of achieving the same kind of goal?
In the way that I work, it's in a meditative process, yes. I'm pretty certain there must be at least 100 different ways to accomplish the same thing. And the meditative process it's not very difficult, really. Well, I guess because I've been practicing it for so long, it's not difficult to me. But it does take practice, and it does take a willingness to remain in that state of mind, to continue to do good work on yourself, good work with others, and to stay connected to your good mind. That meditative process helps to derail the crazy brain, the thinker, the ego. And so by that derailment, now all that's left is the clear thought and the clear channel, I guess, if you will, of allowing the spiritual voice to speak through you. So that's
Okay.
part of that.
So what do you do specifically for you to be able to get into that meditative state? Like, you as a healer, what do you have to do to prepare yourself to try to go into that place where you can start helping to heal people or working with people in their healing?
I just begin by, well, for one, enduring sleepless nights sometimes, anticipating what the good work is going to be the next morning. But I just begin by remaining thankful for everything that I have, placing myself in that condition of gratitude. It helps keep me in this humility zone. And in that humility zone, it allows me to see what I have and what wealth I already possess. And so by that state of gratitude, that's the infection that I hopefully spread around, is this attitude of gratitude to my clients, or to even the workers or anyone else who's in the space. I share that subliminally within myself and radiate that out to the people. And of course, I do my deep breathing, which shuts off a lot of unnecessary noise inside. And so that helps me to stay focused on the inner, the wisdom that needs to come through. And after that, it's not a whole lot, because the spirit takes over and there isn't really a whole lot to do. It's a state of being rather than the doing. And this is what we're moving away from. We're human doings, and we're caught up in it. And so by transferring our minds back to our good mind, now we become human beings again, in that state of being in the present moment.
Okay. So why do people feel overwhelmed, especially right now? So if you think about and your mother mentioned it a little bit, but why do you think people, in your opinion, why are people overwhelmed right now?
Fear.
Okay. And fear of what?
Fear of death.
Okay.
That's the basis of all of our anxieties.
Okay.
Fear of death.
Okay.
And why? Because the ego tells us that we're just our brain and a body that's finite. And we're listening to the ego. And it's telling us lies. It's telling us lies over and over and over again that we've taken it as truth. If we listen to spirit, it will direct you otherwise. It will let you know that you are limitless and you are without end. And once you begin to feel that, believe that, realize that, and then know that, this fear of death will begin to dissipate very, very rapidly. It will dissolve like salt in the water. And so this is why we continue to teach the people how to derail that egoic mind back to your spirit mind, the one that will teach you through wisdom, and with good health, because that's the healthy part of your mind. So therefore, that will be also the healthy part of your body. And so this is what will help alleviate the fear.
Okay. So Geraldine, I have a question for you. Why is it that we're drawn to specific spirit animals or like specific things in nature? Why are we drawn to that? Like what motivates that in us to be drawn to those spirit animals or those specific beings that are out there?
It usually happens when we interact with animals. For instance, I carry a snake, as you well know. Mainly because it visions the snake, speaks to me, and it teaches me and it tells me things. And so the snake is really something that, while in my waking life I give a wide berth, stay where you belong, and I will stay where I belong. But I have a great deal of respect for that particular animals, and I admire them. I have a couple of turtles. I use a couple of turtles when I want to heal illness that is deep within the body. And I ask them to enter the body and cleanse that body. And there is a whole story that takes too long to tell at this point in time. But 3 years in a row, I saved turtles' lives. I didn't save turtles' lives to be friends or to make use of them. I saved their lives because they were in danger, period. And because of that, now they are my helpers. I had a thunderbird come to me in vision and let me know that it was protecting me from illness. And it has saved my life, actually. And so now, when someone is in dire need of protection, I send that thunderbird forward to protect that person from whatever it is that they are struggling with. There is something here that people do not understand, and that is the number one. I am the turtle. I am the snake. I am the thunderbird. I am also fire. I am also water. I am also earth. And I'm also wind. And so you are part of the universe. You are a part of everything. And because the Great Spirit lives in you, when you understand and believe that, you have the power to create and to use whatever it is that comes to hand to help another human being. That is what I call oneness.
Okay. So when you talk about oneness, what does that mean to you a little bit further? I guess like when you talk about these relationships, and I'll give you an example of you guys doing the water ceremony
Yes.
down here. It was really inspiring to see that.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you doing that? Like doing that type of ceremony and doing ceremonies specifically?
When I do the water ceremony almost every year. I like to say I do it every year, but sometimes I'm remiss and I can't make it to the river. I've done that water ceremony in the South Pacific, the North Pacific, the Atlantic, the Caribbean, everywhere, assorted lakes, ponds, and rivers. It is acknowledging the life-giving quality of water. I call her, she's female, she is not a thing. She is a being. She thinks and she has memory and she remembers me. And she also has a sense of humor. So when I go to the river, it is really like looking in the mirror, because I'm also honoring not only the river, but I'm also honoring myself, because I understand and I tell her that when you are healthy, I am healthy. And so I drink a half a bottle of clear water, good, clean water, and I share that with her because I want her to be well. So I give her goodness. I eat berries or a bologna sandwich. I'll eat half of it and give half to the river because I am sharing that. So, ultimately, I honor her with my tobacco. I put her in there and wish her well. Not only that, everything that I put in the river, I know that she is going to take downriver and into all the waters, all the oceans of this earth. So this is what motivates me to do, because it's communing. It's communing with something that is of the earth, but also of me. So that makes her and I one and the same. It's very simple. It's like the trees. The trees are me, and the trees speak to me. And I appreciate the trees. I have had a lifelong love affair with trees. And on my property, I've had a lot of trees. And so it is an honor for me to have trees. And it is respecting and loving these parts of creation, even though I'm not always out there. But every morning when I sit up in my bed and I look out my window and there is white birches in my upstairs window and the sun is dappling through those leaves, and I think the earth is so beautiful. I am so lucky to be here. And that's just how I see things.
So, Mike, there was a question about wondering about technology, school, people's lives with their work. Our brains are going in a million different directions all the time. And how do we center ourselves? What can you suggest to people out there to center ourselves within a modern context? Like what's helpful for us to disconnect and to help to bring us back to a centering within ourselves?
That's a good question. It's simple to say, but it's a little bit more difficult to put into practice, mainly because of the way the world and the society is right now. Again, through meditative practices and by being yourself in that place of work helps a great deal. It's to add quality to yourself in your presence with whatever you're doing at your desk, in your workplaces. Needs your presence there. It needs your being. That quality of having you there adds quality to the work that you do. Indeed, sometimes time passes like nothing at all. If you love what you're doing and you're so involved in what you do, there's no time. It's timeless. So that's where we kind of find ourselves faced with something at the present moment. And that's a message that I repeated a couple of times in the last few days. And that it is the change of the modern world. The change of the modern world is utmost at this point, because it is changing. It is going to change. There's nothing that can be done to stop it. It's been set in motion a long time ago, and that it is returning to its original state, and that the entire society and the world itself was once female oriented. And this is what we're dealing with now, and this is where we're moving ourselves towards once again, from being male dominant to more female oriented society. And this is where it's shifting. And this is where we're discovering this not only in our workplaces, but indeed in the very core of our own being. There's a struggle. And we could see a little of that struggle reflected in how humanity and indeed the male dominant society is still trying to hold on to its status. But it's by acceptance of the way things are changing. It's reflected in the environment. It's reflected in the way different, for instance, the melting of the ice is one key indicator. The melting of the ice represents the melting of the ice inside, and that's surrounding our hearts. And we need to be less frosty and less icy towards one another. And so, even though it has some certain consequences to it that affect the whole global system, and as my mother had just recently spoken about the water, that ripple effect goes a long way, not just radiating outward, but radiating inward, deeply inward. I had a vision of the water, and the water within the earth is rising to the surface. And it may come to as a surprise to many people, maybe to some not so. There is an enormous amount of fresh water deep within the earth. And this fresh water is rising to the surface. And as it rises to the surface, it is scooping up much of the toxicity, poisons, and illnesses that humanity has placed inside our Earth Mother. And this water is beginning to push all of that negativity out. All of that poison is being transformed and healed. And indeed, in some parts outside of the city, we've noticed a distinct foul-smelling air, swamp gas. And that has indicated to me that a lot of the negativity is being purged out of the earth as we speak. So, I kind of forgot about the question you asked initially, but
it's more about centering ourselves within a modern context and going within ourselves.
Yeah. I think by taking into account of what this message, what I had just said here goes a great deal into reconnecting ourselves with that, because the modern world will continue. Technologies will advance in a different way. It will be more attuned to health. It will be more attuned toward our advancement. It won't make us lazy, but it will allow us to pursue our spiritual life first instead of pursuing making a living. Okay, there's a difference between making a good living and making a good life for yourself. And right now, everyone feels deep down that we all need to make a better life for ourselves at this moment. And indeed, making a living for yourself, in some cases, it's not even making a good living for yourself, because it's like a dog chasing its tail. And much of humanity, much of the society is running around like this in circles.
Okay.
So there's this centering of ourselves again, reminding ourselves of what it is that we do want for ourselves. Directing our minds that way and making the necessary changes inward to pursue what it is you love doing rather than to pursue a paycheck. Okay. There is within yourself that decision needs to be made, and this is what will help transform the modern world into something more deeply profound and connected for ourselves and for each other.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. I have a question that I guess because you talked a bit about it with our struggles with pandemic and our struggles of the stress of work and school. There's this intense social situation, and Mike touched on it a little bit. You touched on it a little bit, but there's so many people who have hate and fear who's guiding their lives. And sometimes we might feel that we're not connected to them. Sometimes we feel that we can't get close to them. So how can we connect to those people with love and respect?
It's really, really simple. There is a saying, and it goes like this: like attracts like. So you have to be what you want to have. If you want to be with people who are secure in their outlook in life and who are confident, well, you have to do your own self-healing. You know, I have respect for psychologists, but they don't go the distance. Psychology deals with your intellect, your ego, but it does not tell you how to get past it. How do you do that? Well, we have a very, very simple way of doing it, and it's called letting go. Simply let it go. But we have this ego that sits in our skull that is going to freak out at the very thought of the word forgiveness. It's going to screech and say, what? Don't you remember what that son of a so-and-so said, did, whatever? And so it fans the flame of your anger, and it does not allow you to heal through forgiveness. But there's a trick. And the trick is just to bypass your ego and go straight to the Great Spirit that lives within you. And you say to him, Grandfather, I'm willing to forgive this person for fill in the blank. And I'm willing to forgive myself. That allows you to release whatever it is that you need to release. And there, when you do this kind of forgiveness work, what happens is that you bring yourself to inner peace because you no longer carry any kind of toxic emotion. Toxic emotion in your system will create sickness. Over time, when in your youth, you can harbor a lot of toxins in your body, but at a certain age, you turn a corner and you can no longer do that. And so your sickness will come forward. So when you are having anxiety, you have to think anxiety, because that anxiety is telling you that you are not facing some aspect of self. That means you need to take the time to look at your inner being and saying, okay, well, what is disturbing me? And when you do arise at a place where you begin to understand that disturbance, that's your cue that you need to go to Great Spirit and say, Grandfather, I'm willing to forgive this event, whatever it is, and I'm willing to forgive myself. That's the process of self-healing. But you do have to face your own inner garbage to release it. I hope that answers your question.
So I'm just wondering, Mike, you talked a bit about our overall health, but when we look at our own health, especially around Indigenous health, does it include like the belief that there's an engagement in meaningful work and activities that are health promoting? So if we look at those things, can we mix it in that in our work life and in our regular life, that we can do things that are health promoting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We we have again, I don't know if it was explained here already. We have our life story that we need to follow and to continue. It's to remember our original instructions, that what we intended to do as spirit when we came into this world. And obviously it's not very easy to do or to remember. But by following those choices and mistakes that we do make, learning and picking ourselves up from it, it reminds us of who we are and what we need to do in order to fulfill the mission that we set out to do. And indeed, we volunteered to be here in this very dense planetary surrounding. But at the same time, we do what we need to do in order to alleviate a lot of the symptoms. I know in the past for myself, I would take a golf ball and a golf club, go to the water, and just hammer that golf ball, because the stresses of everyday life and the anger towards people or persons would be so much that, man, I never drove a golf ball that far playing. And to drive it 300 yards is like, okay, that's how much of the anger that resides there. But at the same time, those physical activities, whether they be through sports, through work, through different arts and crafts, and et cetera, we express ourselves through that, and we need that. We need to build, create in this world, as they say in that prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. We need to bridge that gap, and what we do in the spirit realm also needs to be applied here in this physical realm, in order for us to turn this dream of a life into the best possible dream that it could ever be, before we finally return home to never return again. So this is what I see as applying all the things that fulfill you in your life, even the smallest physical activities, or what gives you motivation to go and grow, builds on that, and it allows us to connect with that creative mind. That's where the Great Spirit dwells.
Okay. So I guess we've reached the 101 right now, and I guess I just wanted to take the time to say thank you to Mike and Geraldine for taking this time today to share with all of you. I know we didn't get to all of our questions, but I think we covered quite a bit for an hour's presentation. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time today, and seeing all of the different people that were here today. I mean, I was fortunate enough to get emails from different faculties and different departments. So really thank you for coming out and being part of this, and thank you to my friends, and they are my friends, Geraldine and Mike. They're two people that I've come to really love and adore, and people that I've come to count on for a better understanding of my own journey, and also to help me to keep growing. And I think the last message I just want to give to this is that healing is love, it's goodness, and everything that you guys have shared today is about that goodness and about that kindness. And for all of you who are out there, who are working with students, who are working with each other, you're caretakers. You're responsible to be loving and caring to each other. And that when we take that time to actually listen to each other, it gives validation to us, especially in these times that we're in right now, because people are lonely, people are feeling isolated, people are feeling scared. But know that that Creator is with you. Know that you can turn to Creator or God, or whatever words you choose to say. So again, thank you to you both, Nyawagoa, and thank you to all of you. my hope is in the future that we get to do more activities like this, where we can have more of a direct question and answer situation, because I know there's a lot of things that people want to learn and want to know. So so yeah, so thank you.